Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Duncan Alderdice, and in this series, I make short videos in the morning on my walk as I talk through the thoughts I'm having. It's like try to put my life back together again. In today's video, we're going to talk about two main things. One is the new camera I got. That'll be later. But the other is I got a job offer from the job that I talked about yesterday that they really liked me in the interview, which was like 2 rounds sort of thing and just everything around that. So, crazy talk. So first, just a bit of context. This job I applied for way back in like April, May, like a long time ago, and hadn't heard from them for like a month and a half, like until like 2 weeks ago, and then booked a first screening call, and then it was like nothing. And then the first time I got to the screen call, that was last week on Wednesday, I think, and then they passed me to the hiring manager person who I had a call with 2 days ago. That call went well, like I spoke about yesterday, and then yesterday I got an official offer letter, like something that I signed, not just like the other job that I would like, that I still haven't heard an official no from, that I just have the informal yes. Now, what's interesting is because it now opens a can of fish of worms in terms of what am I actually wanting from a job, because there's going to be a decision. One thing with this new opportunity that has presented itself is that it is fully remote, which is nice because it's flexible, will be easy to move. However, and the difficult thing is to just consider is the fact that there isn't going to, if I take that one, then I have to make an active effort in terms of building a life, a social life outside the house that I'm living, so that I don't just end up staying like my work day being, okay, I'm done on the computer for work. Now I'm switching to the computer for something like editing videos or another sort of interest that I have, that even at the very least of going to an office twice a week gets me out. And then in that out of the house, I can at least like go for a walk. It's easier to do something other than get just trapped and then socially isolated in my own sort of dungeon. I hear a car behind me, so I'm also thinking about that. We're going to take this moment right here to just put the camera down. Okay. So, back to what I was saying, which is there is a pro and con to it being fully remote, and particularly for the situation that I'm in, fully remote might not be the absolute ideal, because although I shouldn't try to make the work coworkers the primary or like the sole source of social stimulation, it still is good to there's a bonus with that. Today's really early, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna pause until I'm getting onto the trail. 1 second. Big busy car day. Like when I stepped out of the driveway, there was like one car backing up with the trailer at the neighbors. I don't really have neighbors. And then another car with another trailer pulling up for something. And then another truck at the same time pulling up with another trailer, who is the same guy who stopped me when I was walking down yesterday. Who knows my mom and dad? So that's small town shit. But okay, so at least there's things to consider on the table that are related to that. The other thing, and this is just a bit more of a controversial thing coming up. So we're gonna get in terms of compensation. The new company, we're only gonna talk about the new company from this point forth. It's headquartered in the US. The offer that I was given had a base hourly rate. I don't know why it wasn't a base salary, but whatever. Base hourly rate plus an incentives on top. They didn't have a specific OTE outline, like of on-target earnings, just sort of like what sort of commissions you could get on top. All of that was put into US dollars. Now, it was on the bottom of the range for that pay scale that I remember it had outlined when I applied. So, wanted to kind of understand a bit like why, given the fact that I was told, hey, you were the best candidate, even better than my referrals, how did you arrive to this number? Then the other thing is like didn't specify clearly whether or not it was in CAD or USD. So then I replied to the email just quickly and like, hey, just confirming that these numbers are in USD. And then the person, the like HR, the talent acquisition rep, replied being like, oh, my bad, forgot you were located in Canada. Let me just resend. And then about 8 hours later, they then sent the updated contract in Canadian. However, it wasn't for the same amount. And so that was very puzzling and jarring and not even close. Like I don't know if I can get specifics right now, but let's say I was paid $1 for every hour at base on the initial contract. That's the equivalent of that when paid to me in Canadian comes out as 1.42. The updated contract with Canadian came out to roughly it would have been closer to like 0.7 or 0.8 US dollars. So less value by converting it, because and so then that's where it's frustrating, because it's like, okay, well, yes, I understand that I am in a geographical location that is separate from the United States, but the work is remote. So geography should have nothing to do with the compensation I'm willing to, that you're willing to provide me with. Like if the work that I'm doing is just in Canada, I can see how you make the argument of like, well, you're working in the Canadian market. Okay. But if the job was willing to pay me that 1x US when you thought I was American, that should just be the exact same thing if you once you find out I'm Canadian. Like we're not changing the compensation, we're just changing the denomination, like the dollar denomination, because it's the same amount of money. So then now I'm in a position where it's like, well, like I'm not accepting the second one, but it's weird because I got to figure out how to make my mouth not as dry when I go talk like this. Like this is the first thing I do in the morning. So because of the fact that they were willing to pay me more in value before, that is the number I'm going to be like. I mean, it's a question of no, like I'm not accepting less, and the less is a difference of, in terms of salary. If we just express it in that, like the difference between the first contract and the second contract, just on the denomination, is close to 25,000 pre-tax income on the back end, which is wild. But I don't think that they're trying to fuck me over. I think that they just have a system, and currently I'm like, humans don't fuck each other over, corporations do. Now, what do I mean by corporation? Because let's get specific with that. And if a corporation is a set of ideas, processes, and procedures organized in a particular way, allowing a particular mission statement to be pursued and scaled and grow at scale. Okay. Why are those pieces necessary? Because when it's just a one-man operation, the one guy or gal is making all the decisions. There is no processes. But you can't scale that. You can't hire 100 people and be like, all right, we're now going to run this business that everything lives inside my head. Like you have to put that in formalized on paper so that someone who is new to the company, who's a week in, doesn't have to think as hard in order to do something. like that's just helping. Like rather than being like, okay, you're on this new team, go sell the thing. It's like, no, here's a script that you can use. Say these words, and people will be likely to give us money. You know, and then there's room you can do within that. Because that is like happening right now, it's not to say that the system has been designed to screw me over, but the system is designed to be applicable to as many use cases as possible, not edge cases where there's a discrepancy in terms of the conversion rate or whatever. So, because I know I'm not being screwed over by a human, and it's just a policy that needs to be updated, I'm not going to treat any of the things that they say as set in stone. Like they'll say like, oh, well, our policy is to look at the market rate for your particular geographic region and switch over, and then that's how we determine that. It's like, no. Okay, cool. That's great that you have a procedure so you don't use zero, but I'm not procedure man. I'm a new thing. I'm going to be paid what the job is worth. And if you were willing to pay me what it was in that's what it'll take. We'll do the conversion in terms of that. Now, a thing that I need to remember when I'm replying this morning is that implicitly accepts the first number they gave as the number that I'm willing to accept, which I can't do yet because I'm dealing with a corporation. And so I need to go, okay, no, this is the door in. They've played their cards. They've made the offer they want me. Their job is now to get me. So now I can ask for what I want or explore what that is. And so I need to figure out how high they're willing to go. And the way that I want to do that is like, well, first I need to ask them and get it clear going, not this, there's a discrepancy. I'm upset about the conversion, blah, blah, blah. But more go, okay, well, all of these numbers have been thrown around over the course of this process. I want to get clarity on how much the job is worth. Because we're not discussing price, we're talking value. That's where we have to keep the conversation on. Because if we can keep the conversation on value, and they're like, okay, whatever the range is, they say like this, we have set and valued this as whatever the range that they give. Then my follow-up question can be, okay, well, can you help me understand the criteria used to determine where someone fits on the scale? Because if, let's say, they say whatever the number they quoted me at to beginning with was at the bottom of the scale versus the top of the scale, I want to know why it's not the very top. Because whatever they then say, when they're like, well, what we're looking for at the top are these XYZ things, that gives me an opportunity to then go, oh, funny you should mention XYZ. I happen to have Z, Y, and X. Can you help me understand? So I deserve the higher rate. Whatever. So we got that going. But then once we have an idea of what the job is worth, then we can start discussing and we can sidestep any procedure thing of like, well, in your given market, this is what this job title gives. Because it's besides the point where I'm physically located for a remote job, but more importantly, it is beside the point where I'm physically located. If you were willing to pay me X in USD, then that is what you have budgeted. Like nothing has changed about whether or not you value me based on the fact that I'm in a different geographical region that uses a different dollar. And it's like cost of living is proportional to the exchange rate. So the purchasing power of what they gave to me in the US is not equivalent to essentially they gave whatever they gave for the first one was pretty much like $2, this exact same number in Canadian, but just not the equivalent number. And so, okay, I'm feeling my mouth getting super dry. It's also windy here, so we're gonna stop. No, we're gonna see whether or not the wind. This is a new camera, so I'm wondering if the wind is better at being blocked by this one right here. Curious what you think of the audio. Curious if you see the colors are better or the quality of the light, the information being picked up. Whether you notice the difference at all. I think at the end of the day, though, what I'm hoping is that the shadows are not as blocking my facey-ness, and I can play around with the colors and make it more contrasty without just turning these into raccoon eye sort of things. Not that raccoon eye look isn't good, but it just is especially expressive if it's like a talking head me to the camera. Like, people communicate with their eyes. So if you I don't know how to do it. Anyways, the point I'm saying is we have a bird in the hand. They've played their cards and saying they want me. Now I have the positional room to state my case and control the conversation and get something that's more appealing. And more importantly is that the step one isn't to go like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you didn't do the fucking conversion rate? This is not the same thing. How retarded are you? That's not going to be a good first step in terms of negotiation, in terms of opening them up. So the step one is we need to get on the same page in terms of what we're talking about. Like, what is the job worth? Because that's the question. It's not what do I want to be paid? It's what is the job worth? It doesn't matter if I'm coming before. If you think I'm worthy for the job from your evaluation process, it doesn't matter if I was making minimum wage or $2 million before. That has no impact on what the compensation should be included for the current plug. So that's where my head's at. Strategy talk. Glad I could think these through, put these fragmented thoughts together. Appreciate you watching to the end. And I know you know this already, but I'll say it again, is that desire is what drives you forward. The pain you're going through is necessary. That is why you need to believe in yourself, because you're more capable of doing great things than you give yourself credit. Lean in, aim up, and move forward. Yes, you can. Yes, you will.